3 months ago, I flew a single-engine small aircraft from Melbourne in southern Australia via fuel stops in Lee Creek, Tennant Creek, Katherine, then in Darwin, where I picked up my friend Michael.
Hi Michael, greetings chums.
And flew the last overseas leg from Darwin into Dili International Airport.
Yankee Zulu, runway 26, clear to land.
I spent 2 days exploring East Timor, a country that I've never been to before.
Bye guys, thank you. Bye. Hello.
Before jumping back into my aircraft, taking off from Dili and retracing my steps through Darwin, through the middle of Australia, all the way down to here in Melbourne, my hometown. This is Echo Yankee Zulu, the Cirrus SR22. I did that flight in, and since posting the videos on YouTube, I've had a lot of questions, mainly around how I actually pulled off a trip like that, and a lot of you wanting to know how much it cost. So consider this a bit of a how-to guide if you're interested in pulling off a similar trip yourself. Now, if you just want to cut to the chase and know how much it cost, this is how much it cost. If you want to know what that actually involved and what the breakdown of that cost actually was, then listen on, because I'm going to be very open about exactly how I did it and exactly how much it cost me. First day and a half of the trip was flying across Australia. A lot of airports and procedures that if you fly in Australia or if you've watched my channel before, you'll kind of be familiar with. But the interesting part of this whole journey, I think, is the international leg between Darwin and East Timor, and then the return leg from East Timor back into Australia again. So let's pick up the journey from Darwin. How exactly do you fly an aircraft that you either own yourself or you're hiring privately from one country into another? So the first thing you need to do when you want to leave your home country is you need to clear yourself through customs. As you can imagine, there's a few forms you need to fill out. One of them is what's called a general declaration, or sometimes abbreviated to a GenDec. And that is simply a declaration form for the customs team to let them know what your airport of origin is, what your destination is, your aircraft type, and several other bits of information about the flight that you're about to undertake. Depending on the country of departure and the country of destination, there can be other forms that you need to fill in. For me, for example, with Australia, I was handed another form called a disinsection form, which I'll come to in a second, but that was one I had to fill out to say that I had sprayed my aircraft with insecticide before my return leg to Australia. It can be a bit overwhelming and there can be a lot of forms, so what I did is I used an FBO, or a fixed-based operator. In my case, it was Pearl Flight Centre at Darwin International Airport. They organised all the forms for me. They basically handed me a packet with the forms that I would need. They even organised the spray, the insecticide spray that I'd need to spray the aircraft with before returning. They also organised for customs to do an on-ramp check, or basically come and talk to me at the point of where my aircraft was, rather than me having to go into the public terminal and go through customs and come back again.
So that's all good?
Yep.
Thanks very much. Thanks for making it easy. Okay.
I've got a quick breakdown of the two main costs then on the ground. The first is paid to the airport. It's the airport movement charge. So this goes directly to Darwin Airport, the operators. That was $330 for this aircraft. And then handling from Pearl Flight Centre on the ground, which covered everything. That was the customs declaration forms that we had, the insecticide spray that we had, organising customs to come down, the use of their FBO, so all the drinks and everything we had on the ground, and the food packs that they gave us as well. We got some sandwiches, I got vegan ones, Michael had his own sandwiches. All of that together was $233.95. Fuel at the airport was done individually through a separate refueler, but again organised by Pearl Flight Centre, and for me that was $2.40 per litre. So that's Australian dollars. You can work it out in your own currencies there. And that was the total cost of getting the aircraft out of Darwin. Right, change of airport, change of scenery. Let's go over here. Getting into East Timor then, what do you need to do? Well, to get into the new country, first of all, you need to clear customs at the airport of arrival. Exactly the same as if you were flying on like a regular passenger commercial aircraft. But slightly different to Darwin, we didn't have customs and immigration meeting us at the aircraft. We exited the aircraft and they drove us around. Well, actually our handler, and I'll talk about that in a second, but our handler drove us around to customs and immigration, where we went through the main airport terminal and we cleared customs and immigration. We filled in the declaration forms. And again, the process was exactly the same as if you're getting off a regular commercial airline. Now, the handler is an important one, and in a lot of countries you need a handler. That's someone on the ground who basically meets you and organises all of this for you on your behalf. It's not required everywhere, but even if it's not required, I would say if you're not very familiar with the country, getting yourself a handler on the ground is really, really important, and it takes out so much of the stress. Let's do costs again then for Dili. So getting into East Timor, the fuel that we used on the way there, so refueling. What's going on with this wind? Refueling in East Timor was $662 US. The handling fee, so Alex, who is our handler, he was $220 US. The landing fees at Dili were $415 US. Then 2 nights parking was $110. That's a total cost to get in, park, and get everything done in East Timor of $1,407 US, which roughly works out to be just over 2,000 Australian dollars. Now, this aircraft takes avgas for its fuel, but Dili only has Jet A1 in the fuel tanks and on the pump. So what do you do when you want to refuel? Well, we had to pre-order avgas in barrels. Now, this is by no means an advert, and this is not a sponsored video in any way, but my friend Michael does organise those services in East Timor. He's who I used when I took Echo Yankee Zulu over there. So he organised the handler. He basically pre-organised the avgas to be available there in barrels for us to refuel. He worked with the refueling teams, made sure all the equipment was there. Kind of, again, took all the stresses out of having to do that yourself. And I will put links to Michael's webpage all about aviation down below, where you can find out more if you are doing a similar trip. But irrespective of where you're going, I definitely recommend having a handler on the ground if it's not already required by the country you fly to, and check obviously about your refueling requirements and whether they have the right fuel for you, because if they don't, you'll have to do what I did, which is order it in barrels. So when you're actually there on the ground, well, what do you do? Well, the first thing you do is you've got access to your own aircraft. So go and do some scenic flights, have a flight around the local area, talk to some of the pilots there at the airports, and find out what they actually recommend you do. I was lucky enough to spark up a conversation with the MAF when I was down there, again through my friend Michael, and they offered to take me on a flight to one of the local islands. Go on tours, sightsee, kick back on the beach, whatever you want to do. But eventually you're going to need to fly home, so how exactly do you fly from East Timor back into Australia? And is it as difficult as a lot of people say to get into Australia in your own plane because of all the border patrol and customs systems we have in place? A little bit. So what do you do when you're ready to leave East Timor and you want to fly back home to Australia? Well, remember all those forms they gave me in Darwin? The night before departure, and I'm just filling out a couple of additional forms that I'll need for customs when I get into Darwin tomorrow. The first one is this, the Australian Border Force Crew Declaration Form. You know when you come in on an international flight to Australia and you have to fill out that arrivals card with, are you carrying any tobacco, wooden items, animal products, $10,000 worth of cash? Same thing, just in a slightly different format. The other document I'm preparing but I can't fill out entirely is basically a declaration that I have sprayed the interior of the cockpit with the insecticide spray that they gave me when I left Darwin. Now I filled out what I can, but obviously I can't sign it yet because, well, I haven't sprayed the cockpit yet. But once I have, this is ready to go, and I need to show that to the Immigration and Border Patrol people at Darwin Airport before they'll let me open the aircraft doors. So I have to have this and kind of hold it up to the window. Then the documents I need for customs, I've got this General Declaration, or GenDec, which is a templated document that Michael actually gave me. That's why it's got the Southern Sun on the top. I'm just borrowing his format for it, which is just a declaration of the crew on board, the aircraft registration, the time of departure, as well as some health information on there as well, just relating to COVID. So I'll have this to give to the immigration team at Dili, but I've also got another copy of this which I'll need to give to the customs team when I arrive at Darwin as well. It might seem like a lot of documentation, but it's actually pretty straightforward. But again, if you're doing this with people, like with Pearl Flight Centre that I've got in Darwin, with my friend Michael here who's helping me out in Dili, with the handlers down here, they give you these forms and you basically just fill them out and give them back again. What is making all that noise? I mean, I love a King Air, but I'll just wait for that to finish. Peace and quiet. Okay, once you've filled out your forms, you've cleared customs in the airport and you're ready to take off and fly home. If you are flying into Australia, this is where we go back to that can of insect spray that they gave me in Darwin. See you in Melbourne. All right, and now I have to spray this and fill the cockpit. Here we go. I had to close the doors, spray the whole aircraft. That's not just the cockpit area, that's the baggage compartment as well. Now, I was told you don't need to empty the entire can. I think I did about half of it. I don't think I needed to do quite as much. So there was quite a fog and a lingering taste of insecticide in my mouth as I did depart Dili. But that is one thing that you do need to do with the doors closed. And when you land at the other end, just skipping ahead to Darwin for a second, you can't open the doors of the aircraft until you've shown the can of spray and shown that you've filled the insecticide spray form as well. Thank you. Once the Border Patrol team have seen that, then you can open the doors and then you can exit the aircraft. Then once you're out of the aircraft, you will meet the customs team. And again, exactly the same as your customs declaration when you're flying on a commercial jet. I was given a form, it just looks slightly different, but the questions were basically the same. If you've got anything to declare, you declare it to customs. If not, sometimes they'll take a quick look at the aircraft or through some of your bags, exactly in the same way that they can do at a commercial airport. But once you've done that, you're in. All right, so final costs then. What did it cost to come back through Darwin? Well, again, I used Pearl Flight Centre, the same team I used on the way out. And again, there were three main costs. The first one was the aircraft movement charge. Again, Darwin Airport charged me $330 to land and use Darwin Airport. Then Pearl Flight Centre, this was the food. They gave me more sandwiches on the leg down to Alice Springs that I was going to afterwards. Thank you very much. I got sandwiches, handling, the customs at plane, organising Border Patrol, the use of their FBO and everything cost me $114. And the fuel that I used from Dili, again, I was charged $2.40 per litre. So in my case, it came to $464. You may think, if it's your home country, do I need to use an FBO like Pearl or like any of the other operators out there? Well, no, you don't have to. But my recommendation, unless you do this a lot and unless you know exactly what forms you need to fill out, it really is worth the cost of knowing that you've done everything that you need to do, because for me, I just wanted to focus on flying in new airspace and unfamiliar territories rather than worrying about the logistics and the paperwork and the red tape associated with this. So from my point of view, and of course, if it's not cost prohibitive, then yeah, I absolutely would recommend using an FBO like the guys at Pearl Flight Centre. This is absolutely not sponsored by Pearl Flight Centre in any sort of way. I just want to make that clear as well. I paid for every single one of those costs. That's how I know how much it cost me, because they're now on my credit card bill. If you want to know exactly what it's like flying a small aircraft all the way to East Timor and back again, here's the playlist of the videos I made flying over 5 days from Melbourne to Dili and back again. Otherwise, thank you as always for watching. I hope you found this information useful, and I'll see you in the next video.